The story of Moses is one of the most legendary in the Bible, a tale of leadership, deliverance, and a deep relationship with God. But within this grand narrative lies a mystery that often goes unnoticed, the story of Moses' sons, Gershom and Eliezer. These two figures, born in the shadow of one of the greatest leaders in history, seem to fade into the background. Why? What became of them? And what can their hidden legacy teach us about God's purpose and our place in His plan? To uncover their story, we must journey back to Moses' time in Midian. After fleeing Egypt for killing an Egyptian taskmaster, Moses found himself in exile, far from the grandeur of Pharaoh's palace where he was raised. In this wilderness of uncertainty, he encountered Jethro, a Midianite priest, and married his daughter Zipporah. It was during this chapter of his life that Moses became a father to two sons, Gershom and Eliezer. The Bible first introduces Gershom in Exodus chapter 2, verse 22. Moses named his son Gershom, saying, "I have become a foreigner in a foreign land." The name Gershom, derived from the Hebrew root meaning sojourner or foreigner, reflects Moses' feelings of displacement. Once a prince of Egypt, he was now a fugitive shepherd in an unfamiliar land. The naming of his son was a deeply personal expression of his spiritual and emotional state, a reminder of his journey from privilege to humility. Eliezer, Moses' second son, was named later, and his name carries a different significance. As noted in Exodus chapter 18 verse 4, Eliezer means, "My God is my helper." Moses named him to commemorate God's protection and deliverance when Pharaoh sought his life. Together, the names of these two sons encapsulate a profound narrative. Gershom symbolizes Moses' exile and alienation, while Eliezer embodies God's faithfulness and providence. Despite being born to one of the most influential figures in the Bible, Gershom and Eliezer are not prominent in the biblical narrative. Their story takes a curious turn when Moses, called by God to deliver the Israelites from Egypt, embarks on his mission with his family in tow. Exodus chapter 4 verse 20 paints the scene. Moses placed his wife and sons on a donkey and set out for Egypt, carrying the staff of God. Though they were present at the inception of Moses' divine mission, their involvement fades as the Exodus story unfolds. One significant episode involving Moses' family occurs in Exodus chapter 4 verses 24 to 26, where God confronts Moses on the way to Egypt. The Lord intended to kill Moses, but Zipporah intervened, circumcising their son and touching Moses' feet with the foreskin. This dramatic act underscores the importance of adhering to God's covenant, even for someone as chosen as Moses. It was a critical moment that highlighted Zipporah's role in safeguarding her family's alignment with God's commands. Though Gershom and Eliezer are not directly mentioned beyond this event, their presence in these moments reflects the personal challenges Moses faced as a leader balancing his family and divine calling. But why did Gershom and Eliezer seemingly disappear from the biblical spotlight? Several factors might explain this. First, the focus of spiritual leadership was deliberately placed on Aaron and his descendants. Aaron's line was chosen for the priesthood, a role that required visibility and great responsibility. This ensured clarity in spiritual leadership and avoided potential conflicts. Second, Moses' unique role as a prophet and mediator was unparalleled. Deuteronomy chapter 34 verses 10 to 12 emphasizes this. Since then, no prophet has risen in Israel like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face. His calling was singular, and it was not passed down to his sons. Lastly, some traditions suggest that Gershom and Eliezer may have returned to Midian with Zipporah during the Exodus journey. In Exodus chapter 18, Jethro reunites Moses with his family, implying a possible period of separation. This separation may account for their limited presence in the events of the Exodus and wilderness wanderings. Though Gershom and Eliezer do not hold prominent roles in the biblical narrative, their descendants are mentioned in 1 Chronicles chapter 23 verses 14 to 17. They are counted among the Levites, the tribe dedicated to assisting in the care of the tabernacle and later the temple. While Aaron's descendants served as priests, Gershom and Eliezer's lineage contributed to the broader Levitical duties, playing supportive roles in Israel's worship and spiritual life. This distinction between the priestly line of Aaron and the Levitical service of Moses' descendants reflects God's unique design for each family. Gershom's lineage includes Shubbaal, who is noted in 1 Chronicles chapter 24 verse 20 as a leader among the Levites. Eliezer's line is described as having numerous descendants, emphasizing their growth and influence within the tribe of Levi. Though their contributions were not as celebrated as those of Aaron's family, they were essential to the community's spiritual structure. The lives of Gershom and Eliezer offer profound lessons for us today. Their story reminds us that God's purposes are not always tied to visibility or recognition. In a world that often equates significance with fame, Gershom and Eliezer teach us the value of serving faithfully behind the scenes. Their legacy demonstrates that every role in God's plan is important, whether it is in the spotlight or the background. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1 tells us, "There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens." Gershom and Eliezer's lives reflect this truth. Though their contributions were not widely recorded, they were part of God's unfolding story. Similarly, our faithfulness in the roles God assigns us, no matter how small, holds eternal significance. In conclusion, the story of Gershom and Eliezer is not one of obscurity, but of purpose. Their lives remind us that God values obedience over recognition, and that every act of service contributes to His greater plan. As we reflect on their legacy, let us be inspired to embrace our unique roles, trusting that God's purposes for our lives are meaningful, even when they are not celebrated by the world.